the
did.
second was Keith.
Keith?
Yes.
Okay.
First report is from Mr. Fontaine. Everybody should have a booklet.
Everybody has one?
Yep.
Yes. Right?
Yes. All right. Good evening, everybody. If we'll start on page 1, this is going to be our Q3 or through Q3 reporting January through September.
Okay.
Third quarter.
Yes. And so you'll see on page 1 where we are from a claims perspective, 24,291 in medical, a little over 14 million on the prescription drugs for a total of 38,389. Plan reimbursements at 4,160. Retiree drug subsidies at the 924, leaving us a net paid claims figure of 33,305. When I compare our total claims to where we were last year at this time, January through September, our total claims at that time were 37,304.
Wow.
So we're a little above on a total claims basis. On a net claims basis, we're actually under. So where we've really had an increase is in the plan reimbursements. If you remember from our prescription drug negotiations, we increased our rebates, that type of thing. So we've gotten more in plan reimbursements. So if you look at, I'm going to take you to the page 2 here because it's much easier understood from a per employee per month basis. Our total claims are up some 1.6%. That's 775 figure versus the 763. Plan reimbursements up about 55% from 54 to 84, giving us a net claims paid figure that's 2.8% down. We've also had a decrease, if you'll notice, on our retiree Humana premium from last year's renewal, the 357 to the 337. Okay, so our overall plan cost is 2.1% down from prior year. When we met last, okay, we were at some 11%. Okay, and of course that was prior to the summer months. Summer months have increased some cost. On top of that, we've had another rash of high-cost claims, predominantly cancer. So we're dealing with a bit of that as well. So let me update you on just a couple of recent things here. In our renewals for this year, we have approximate 28% decrease in our Humana renewal. Okay, so costs are doing well there. We don't have an increase, and also from the recontracting on our prescription drugs, and we were able to negotiate this for an 11/1 effective date versus January 1. So we've got it 2 months ahead of time. Our prescription drug updated rebates and discounts, the savings on that on an annual basis are about $700,000, 707 to be exact. So that is going to soften some of this increase in cost that we've seen since the June claims here. So we'll be taking a close look at that because if you see this budget loss ratio at the bottom of this page, you know, we're at 716 is our per employee per month plan cost, and of course we're funding at 728. Okay, your net employer cost has gone down some 2.2%, but when our budget loss ratio is at 98.4, Okay, so we've got to keep a close look at that. We've always are going to be constantly looking at saving strategies. I just shared with you a couple of things that are going to bring some savings into the plan. So just needs a close monitoring on it. On the next page here, you see it all broken out on a monthly basis. September was close to a break-even month. We had $198,000 deficit that month. Costs should be subsiding towards the end of the year. High-cost claimants that have reached that $500,000 deductible, we haven't had any, but at this particular month, we do have one of our high-cost claimants that will be reaching that. So keep in mind that the last time we made any kind of cost differences in the plan was July of 2017. So we've had a good run on that. We're still doing well. We're still under previous costs, but I'm watching these cancers and these weekly claims closely because we've seen an uptick in cost here recently. Enrollment-wise, starting on page 5, really nothing staggering to report to you here. We've had very little change in enrollment. We've had very little change in enrollment. So the one thing we always talk about here, we want to make sure that, that we are membership versus participation. We're not changing our outpacing. Basically, our participations increased 0.1%. Participation increasing 0.9%. So no big difference there. And then when we look at spouses versus employees, we don't have a big difference in cost there. I'm going to take you to page 7. Right now, spousal claims are running about 5.2% higher than employees, and on a 3-year average, 2.3. I'll tell you, my other school systems, spouses in some of them are as much as 30-40% more. So you're doing well from an enrollment standpoint. You're not being selected against, is what I'm trying to tell you, where you're taking on much more membership and higher spousal claims, that type of thing. Medical claims on page 8, you see that we've gotten up to $490 per employee per month here. That is not a super high number for a school system, but still in all, it's the highest number we've reported in quite some time here. If you look at the second bullet, it has to do basically with a lot of outpatient chemotherapy, cancer, and heart.
That's what it is? It's
I'm going to show you that on one of the pages going forward. Now, on page 9, in a day and age when most groups are seeing prescription drugs going up some 10-12%, and utilizing different strategies to try and control that cost, we've implemented those strategies and they're working. You can see that we've actually had a 3.4% decrease in costs, and I made myself a note here. This has happened at a time when our high-cost medications have increased. God bless you. Our high-cost medications have increased some 11%. So that tells you how effective the negotiations and the contracting, all of that type of stuff is, and some of the things that we've implemented. I'll also remind you the things we've implemented, we haven't had negative feedback from. Okay? Been very, very quiet. So when we can institute saving strategies that don't disturb the population, but bring savings like this, because prescription drugs mean so much more than it did a few years ago. A few years ago, it wasn't over 30% of your total cost. It is now. Okay? A few years ago, reinsurance never even thought about the cost of a prescription drug. Now there are prescription drugs out there that can hit that $500,000 deductible. Okay? So whole different ballgame, and yours is working and working very well.
The only complaints we had were about the July change, the July 1 change, but I think a lot of that was because of the salary increase happened at the same time that we did the increase in insurance, and people thought the two were connected when they weren't connected.
And also the newspaper saying that our insurance was going up and didn't say what it was that was going up.
Right.
Said that it was spiking,
Which it didn't do.
which it didn't, because it wasn't our premium at all.
Right.
All right. Total claims, actually, only 1.6% increase in total claims. Remember, total claims is gross before any kind of reimbursements from a prescription drug rebate or reinsurance, anything like that. Okay? Now, when we look at page 11 here, and we've had some discussion on this before, and we're going to see how open enrollment fares out this year, that type of thing. Basically, the enhanced plan, I'd like to take you to the 3 bullets at the bottom of the page. Enhanced plan is 14.6% of your participation, but 21.2% of your claims. Basic, 65.8% of participation, 68.7%. So enhanced is certainly not breaking even. Basic, almost breaking even. Blue Saver is only 19.6% of participation, only 10% of claims. So none of us have to be mathematical wizards to figure out that the Blue Saver plan is subsidizing the other 2 plans. So the more folks that move over to the Blue Saver plan, the better off we're going to be from a cost structure. It does have a little bit of a different element going to it. Now remember, when folks move over to the Blue Saver, not only are we going to save some cost on the claims and all of that, but at the same time, we get less contribution because the rate for that is less. So you got claims here, you got funding, okay? It's supposed to balance out. I can tell you, even though the funding goes down, the savings from going to the Blue Saver plan is still a positive thing for the
Where were
case.
we last year? What percentage?
It's going up just, I think we had about an 6% migration to the enhanced plan. Blue Saver, everything else went down. So
So
people move from either basic or enhanced to Blue Saver.
We had talked about doing some sort of education to try to move more people to Blue Saver.
All right, so we'll see how that works this year.
I mean, have we done that?
Yeah, has it been done? Yeah, we got some information from Brooke, I believe, and we sent it out.
A while back.
On the Blue Saver plan, is there a breaking point where the monies coming in will not equal them or will be the same?
No, the difference in cost and claims is always going to outweigh that difference in contribution.
Okay.
For example, if you had 100% of your membership in Blue Saver, you
Right.
would certainly have some lower cost, although you would probably have mutiny on the bounty if you had forced everybody into the Blue Saver plan with no co-payment structure.
Yeah.
Well, mutiny on the bounty was probably a lifetime. All righty, so taking you to claims by type of service, if you remember when I told you on your medical claims, you had a slight increase, that 1.4% or so on your medical claims. Remember, that's gross, not net. You can clearly see on page 13 here that it comes from hospital outpatient. Next couple of pages are going to tell you claims by diagnosis type of thing, and you're going to see that it's kept coming from chemotherapy, cancer, and outpatient heart procedures, predominantly chemotherapy. There's a diagnostic code group that's factors influencing health. It's a big miscellaneous category, but a lot of it is maintenance type chemo. Page 14 tells you our top diagnostic, our top diagnosis for our inpatient. Remember, inpatient actually went down some. It's still musculoskeletal and circulatory that are taking the top two, and it has been that way for quite some time. Once in a while, you're going to see neoplasm, which is cancer, get into there, or a high-cost injury and poisoning type of situation. But once again, musculoskeletal and circulatory. You'll notice that neoplasm is down pretty significantly in that it's $10 per employee per month, where it was at $19 last year. When we turn the page and we look at outpatient, you can see that they took care of the inpatient need, and now they're on chemotherapy, okay? Because factors influencing health, okay, went from 23 to 32, and that's due to chemotherapy. And neoplasm basically stayed at the 28, or when it was, 26 before, not a big increase there. So most of this is coming from that maintenance chemotherapy. Okay. Top facilities, general and Lord's again. Okay. And you can easily see that most of that outpatient treatment is being done at the general, and of course MD Anderson's kind of going up from the 12 to 14, but the big jump is the 90 to the 109 at the general. And that's where we're getting our best discounts, and we'll be super pleased to show y'all the PPO discount.
But we paid less in 18 than we did in 19. We're 5.9
At the general.
at 90 for general, and then we're looking at 5.4 for
Well,
this year. And it'll be
Not
more by the time
necessarily,
we get to the
Mr.
end.
Butch, because 2018 is a full calendar year, whereas the 2019, you're looking at 9 months. That's why we use that per employee per month number.
Okay.
So on a per employee per month number, we've gone from $90 to $109.
Yeah, that's what. Okay.
Good numbers on prescription drugs at 88% generic utilization. School system, that's good, very good. 88% of the prescriptions by count only represent 15% of the total spend. There's a difference between high-cost meds and brand medication and generic. So if we're using generic 88% of the time, but it only amounts to 15% of the dollars, okay, that tells you how important all of this contracting, rebates, formulary, all of that type of stuff is, because every time somebody gets on a Humira or an Emerald or a Stelara or a Consentix or any of these anti-inflammatories that you see advertised on TV, that doesn't have a couple of $100 costs. It's got several $1,000 cost per month.
Would you consider that 88% a good number for a school system our size?
At 88%? Yes, I do.
So compared to other school systems?
We have some that are tracking at 89, 90. We have some that are doing much worse at the 86, 87. I'll take you to page 20, and these are your top prescriptions by number of prescriptions, and they're exactly what you think they should be. Things to control cholesterol, blood pressure, all of those types of things. Hydrocodone is usually in that top 10, and you'll notice that it's basically in that same position, but when you measure it on a per employee per month basis, it's actually come down, and it's come down a great deal over this last couple of years because the federal government is no longer allowing a 90-day supply of it and has put some more controls on it and that type of thing. The more important report to me with regard to prescription drugs is the top 10 by dollar amount on page 21. So when I just finished telling you about every time that somebody gets another strip of a Humira or Enbrel or whatever, look at Humira, it's your number one from a cost standpoint with over a 9-month period, almost $1 million. And you would be surprised at the small number of claims with that. In that it's got a hefty monthly cost to it. The Eliquis is a blood thinner, diabetes, and then you've got 1, 2, 3 cancer chemo meds in here. The Revlimid, Embrus, and Pataglio down at the bottom there at the $310,000. Diabetes also coming into here, and then of course the Stelara at the bottom in that same category as the Humira. These medications, when measured on a per employee per month basis, went up 11.1%, but prescription drugs are still down, so that tells you the power of the recontracting.
I think the last time you had told us that the drug prices were going up by 12% a year. Is that still holding true?
10, 12.
About 10 to 12, okay.
In some categories even higher. So that makes this recontracting and constant working of the contract so much more important, because if we left it alone, okay, you would, in the last couple of years, you'd probably see your drug numbers some 15, 20% higher. Because you've done all of the proper things, you've tightened your formulary, you took drugs off the list that you could get over the counter, and things like that,
Is there a way, like, for example,
tremendous.
when going with human, like the Humira pen, something like that costing thousands of dollars, is there a way maybe to tack on maybe a copay with that? That would be.
You do have a higher copay when you're in that category, yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's a percentage of the drug up to a cap of 150.
Oh, 150, okay, okay.
And the other thing is that these medications, although heavily advertised, it's not something you're gonna run out and go to the doctor and I want some of this stuff, because it's got a list of side effects a mile long.
Yeah.
And you're usually trying the lower cost alternatives without the side effects before you get to that. It's got a lot of protection or a pre-authorization around it.
Okay.
The Humira's been on number one since at least 2014, and I'm assuming before that. When's the timeline for that to come off of
Brian, you want to go generic?
where that'll be generic, where they lose their...
Quite some, on all of these specialties, most of them have 10 to 15-year patents on them, and it's not a widely, because you have, it's not something like a cholesterol med that has numerous prescriptions. It makes the top 10 because it's very, very costly, but it's not numerous prescriptions, and so you're not going to see a bunch of generic alternatives to it, that type of thing. So it's coming off a patent and going generic usually is not going to affect the specialty med that greatly. But be prepared. There's so many things going on. There's not a day that goes by that you don't hear something out of Washington with regard to prescription drugs and all of this. So it's an ever-changing, it's the wild, wild west, I call it, of healthcare and prescription drugs. PPO savings on page 22. Happy to report to you, 70% PPO discount is awfully good, folks. Awfully, awfully good. So each and every year when we go to marketplace for administration and looking at PPO networks, you know your administrative cost is priced well, but a big portion of that too from an overall decision-making standpoint. You know, your fixed cost in your plan, what you pay Blue Cross to administer your plan, what you pay for the $500,000 reinsurance protection that you when a claimant goes over $500,000, you've reinsured yourself for that risk, which you pay for those components, your fixed costs, about 7-8% of your total. Okay? So 92% of your cost is claims. So if another carrier is running at a 63% PPO discount, take 7% of 92% of your plan cost, that's a big number. Big number. So, I mean, just rounding it off at $40 million, okay, with 70% of that. Okay. 2.8 million. Network utilization at the same time, we want to have good, our best-in-class discounts. We also want your people to have choice. And Blue Cross has served you well in that we haven't had situations where we can't find a doctor and network and all of that. It's the largest network in the state at this particular time. You've always had network utilization from 97, almost 98% on up. So all of that working quite well for you. And the cost breakdown, just like we said on page 24 right now, fixed cost is running at 8%, 8.1% of your total cost. And on page 25, plan costs net of employee contributions down 2.2% year over year. And then on page 26, if you look at that area, when we talk, God bless you, on the area that is increased on the medical plan, it's not our high cost claimants. We're actually down $1 million on that. It's the area between $20,000 and $200,000 a year. So if you look at this first bullet, and this is not comparing a year to 9 months. This is the first 9 months of 18 versus the first 9 months of 19. So this year we've got 218 members with 11,561,000. Last year 201 members with 10,891,000. So about a 5% increase in that category, and that's where the medical is coming from, and it's all that outpatient cancer chemotherapy type treatment. So if I sum it up for you, our costs are still down, okay, but they're up from where we were in June. And of course, we've had some summer months, but we've also gotten kind of an increase in some of the cancer claims. Our prescription drugs are doing very well. This year, to kind of balance off some of that increased cost on the medical side, we have an additional $700,000 of planned savings coming from recontracting on prescription drugs, and about a $280,000 savings with our Humana renewal. So that'll put a dent in some of it. We're going to have to monitor it real close. Okay?
The increase that we had in June basically is taking care of the things that we're seeing in the increases here?
Some of it.
Not all of it.
And then, of course, all of that resets on January 1st.
Well, that's good too, yeah, that's right.
You know?
That's right.
We've got new deductibles and out of pocket, so I think we are
gonna be okay.
okay right now. Are we as okay as what we were in June? No. I'm gonna have to look at it closely.
Okay.
And I don't wait to come up with saving strategies after the fact. I'm gonna come up with saving strategies that'll be ready to go now versus later in the event that this stuff continues to uptick and funding versus cost is tighter.
Lynn, the Blue Cross I've been asked about that we have that for another year, right?
Yeah.
Correct? And your contract, same thing. Is your contract annual or is it another 2 years?
I don't remember. I think mine might be coming up at the end of this year.
So That's renewed, how is that renewed? We just don't want to let that lapse. So,
Yeah, I think the contract provides that it will renew unless
and
we give
automatically-
notice.
Okay.
Yeah, it is no sunset, it just says unless there's a,
Right, one party.
Oh,
gets it.
yeah.
there's no sunset on it. You're just gonna continue on unless we, there's
Unless
sunset.
y'all want to can me.
No way.
I'm here.
Well, let's just keep you around, man. Yeah, we just need to make sure that you keep you around.
Go, you still around.
So, that's the summary of it all, and, we'll, continue to bring these, saving strategies in.
Lynn, when do you want the first quarter of next year's meeting? Because our meetings end up,
We, need to meet the latter part of, January or, first part of February.
first quarter.
Because I'll have year-end reporting, by the 10th, 15th of January. And so either meet somewhere like the last week of January, first week of February type
Can
of
you
thing.
give me a date for a Tuesday in February? February 4th?
Right there. You got it pulled up on there?
Is that okay on your calendar? And is that okay with everybody else?
February
Okay,
3rd's a Monday.
February 4th?
Oh, the 4th, okay. I'm there.
Check it.
No.
Check
Okay.
Check.
February 4th is okay, Lynn? Okay. If nobody objects, that's when we'll meet at 5:30.
It's actually awesome because you're getting me out of going to sit at some educational classes.
Then on the administration of 6.4%, how does that compare to, per se, if we would be straight out with Blue Cross or OGD?
So, excellent question in that it's very favorable. I can't tell you how many times we get asked on, fully insured versus self-funded, that type of thing. And of course, they're much larger than most cases. But, when the Affordable Care Act mandates, fixed cost or the retention in the fully insured plan, they're talking about 15%, so you're actually under where Medicare, Medicaid has a fixed cost right about in the same area that you are. So you're running very, very well on that.
Any more
Most
questions?
folks are,
Other school systems do.
smaller cases might have, 18, 19, some 20%, depending on where their reinsurance runs, or some even more than that. And we've got fully insured cases out there that see their retention at 20% and above. So to be able to run this plan as lean as you are for 8 cents on the dollar, it's very good.
Any more questions for Lynn?
How many people do we have with over $500,000?
None this year
None
until
this-
this month. But you got a ton between 20,000 and 200,000. That's if that third to last page,
Yeah.
okay, that's where the uptick in spend is.
Okay.
And Mona and I were discussing that before. You guys have seen enough reporting over the years. Cancer treatments have just gone through the roof. I had a cancer claim 5-7 years ago. It was $500,000. Low side of some of these courses of treatment. They have some that'll run $600,000-700,000.
Is that getting better returns or the patients, is that just technology increases?
Cash keeps them alive.
That's what they need. You don't lose your house.
Thank you very
Once
much.
they're in remission, they're not in treatment. Many of them, will continue these courses for much longer than they did previously. And we've got a bunch of new technology coming out. It's wonderful that we do, but it certainly is not inexpensive.
I heard the news there was a
discounts and constantly
Yeah.
looking.
It's $300,000.
I don't know that it's a cure, but it's definitely gonna extend their lives. 65 roses. What was the price tag? I heard that same report.
65
$300 a
roses,
year?
get close on MS and things like this, you know.
I don't know if we have 65 roses. Probably even a new ourselves.
Do we offer, under voluntary benefits, do we offer a catastrophic or a cancer policy? And do we promote that?
Yes, we do.
We
Yeah.
do?
We have a
Do
lot
we know
of
what percentage of our
I don't
healthcare?
right offhand, but I can find out.
Because that might be something that would help us out in the healthcare plan too, if we had more people with those types of policies.
That's something that
Remember
government
too,
health plan does.
Yeah,
It's not going to give you.
in your
it's not gonna help
plan-
the health plan, to help them.
to help them, yeah.
your out-of-pockets are very rich.
Yeah.
And so even if somebody is diagnosed with that type of illness, you know, a cancer, a heart, anything long-term, very expensive, your out-of-pockets protect people from having super
Right.
large expenses.
Any more questions? Thank you, Lynn, we'll see you in
Thank you.
February.
Yeah, thank you.
Yours.
Mona,
Yes, ma'am.
before you came in, Carol was kind enough to take.
I saw that.
Oh,
Thank you very much. I
down.
appreciate it. Oh, you sure?
Okay, next item on the agenda is the life insurance claim payments corrected. That was something that Carol brought to our attention.
Yes, after the first of the year, there was a claim adjudicator at the life insurance company. Dune, thank you, the name is Dune. And so they had misrepresented the changes that we made, or misinterpreted, let me say that. And so they miscalculated some claims and paid retirees half of the halves. In other words, they were supposed to get 5,000 and the checks started coming at 2,500. But as soon as we called it to their attention, they read the contract, they corrected their problem. But there were a handful of people whose claims were paid incorrectly at first.
So, but we haven't had any more since it
No,
was
ma'am.
corrected.
No. They were very good at responding to correct it.
All right, next item, the flu shot.
Yes, we had a vaccination clinic at DCC and we invited the retirees. I think Ms. Carroll was instrumental in getting that. And so we wanted the numbers of participants. 26 people were vaccinated and 5 retirees came.
That's pitiful.
Man.
But you know what I'm going to say, Mona, is the time factor. Because, I mean, it was like from, off the top of my head, maybe 7 to 10. If that's the time. Maybe if we'd extend it a little, you know, I'm just saying.
They can get those shots at any pharmacy.
At the
Yeah,
Anytime.
that's true.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to let them know they're welcome to come to the work site, but it's really for the convenience of the people who work there, you know, so we can try to inoculate as many of our people as we can. But,
And a lot of schools do their own. Flu shots.
Yeah.
yes, I think every site pretty
Yeah,
much arranges their own.
Right.
So I don't even always know when they're having them.
You know, if we could get the schedule that they do that, those who live in, the retirees who live in that
that's a good
area would go
idea.
to that school.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a
like-
good idea.
You know, Scott, I have like Scott Middle, I have, actually 3 of them in Scott. So that would be
Yeah.
something that we could do
Sure.
for our retirees.
If you could get that to Carol or Butch
Yeah. we could-
before the fall retiree meeting, they could announce. this.
And I'll tell you one way to, probably the best avenue, Mona, to do that is to have everybody set it up by a certain deadline or date,
Yes.
so that you can check, because truthfully, the people that do ours, Wellness Express, they call us and they say, how's this day? And we say, well, let me look at our calendar here. Oh yeah, okay, that works for us.
That's a great.
So truthfully, if we could have everybody maybe by Labor Day nail down a date,
Yes.
then you would have them, people would have
Good idea.
advance notice.
Yes, and
Yeah.
then we could like,
The
and,
retirees meet in September.
well, we do it quarterly, so it's gonna be
Yeah.
September and December.
Yeah, so if everybody nails
So
it down by
if we
Labor
know,
Day.
if we know by the September date, then we can give that out to, maybe anywhere from 75 to 100 people that attend.
And shouldn't the retirees call the school because most of us are over 65 and they need the high dosage, that's the rarest one. I mean, they've been running out all over town. But
Well, the other
because
thing
if they
is-
go and they don't have the high dosage, then they're gonna be upset because they didn't have what they
Right.
needed.
That's a
So
good
if they
point,
can
yeah.
just call the school
And let it
tell
go.
Leo and say, I'm a retiree, I'm over
Yeah,
65, I'll
tell
need
them
the
that.
high dosage, and you can call whichever
Right.
clinic is giving it.
Right. And generally, they'll come, and it's a very limited window. So they start at like 6:30 in the morning
Uh-huh.
because of the teachers having to be in class, promptly at 7:40. So it's usually by 8 o'clock, 8:15, they're out the door.
So,
Well, because like I say, I have like 90 people, former Acadiana retired teachers,
Sure.
and once a month we have a meal, and so if I know something, I'll
You'll
tell
share,
it
yeah,
to, I'll
absolutely.
share it to meal, and then I also do it with, via email,
Sure.
so.
And the
so the
website.
shots are
We
free.
have-
And there's a website for
Yeah.
the
Shots are free
Insurance,
anywhere.
yeah, they're part of
So
insurance.
why would the retirees want to go to a school rather than CVS? Or, I mean, because that's more disruptive, I think, to the school and calling and doing all that. Why don't they just go to CVS?
I just can't imagine anybody, I mean, it's everywhere. You go to a doctor, they give it.
Right, but why would they want to go to
They
school?
give it.
They're out there, they're out there,
Can we give
Some
them your-
they're out there
communities,
running Walmart.
Yes.
but some communities are not real conducive to having a CVS at the local, like Dusong. I'm thinking about
Yeah,
Dusong, right?
yeah.
Even Scott, we have a Walgreens and a CVS now there, but,
But what I'm
It
saying
hadn't been
though
there
is
that
that
long.
they're gonna go get all of them. I mean,
Their prescriptions.
especially retired, they're gonna get drugs of some kind. And so as a result of that, I mean, when you go to.
And then every school's a different time.
Right.
She said hers was.
Like, sometimes.
Sound good, but
Yeah.
It's really not.
I don't want to go
They have to know
to
exactly.
school stuff. I mean, it's kind of disruptive.
Yeah.
They can go to CVS, why encourage them to go to schools?
Not getting.
It's disruptive and there's kids there that are probably sick with the flu,
Like poor
I mean,
Camp
you're,
Hyde's to get
as a
the flu.
retiree, you're really exposing yourself to what, 100, 300 kids, rather than the 5 people that are gonna be at CVS. I mean, as a retiree, I don't know why.
No, but they're not gonna have it in the middle of 300 kids.
Right.
I mean, they're gonna have it somewhere.
Like
where
ours
it's
is
regular.
not true.
If you go to the pharmacy, people with the
Yeah.
flu are picking
See, I
up
usually-
prescriptions, but they don't.
That's
So, I mean, it's- You're gonna be exposed
Yeah.
one way or
It just
another.
I think it's convenience.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
convenience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, whatever's most.
And and trust me, I'm not expecting to have 50 retirees show up.
No,
to
no,
LEO.
and 50 will not show
No,
up.
that's what I'm saying, I'm not expecting to have 50, probably the ones we're gonna have are the ones who worked at LEO Judy's back in the
Yeah,
day.
they're right.
And they're gonna come back, they'll probably come through the office and say hello and which they probably come sometimes anyway, just saying.
Well, I see, I do that.
Yeah.
I go back to KDM, but of course, the problem now is I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
They're all my age
Exactly.
and, a little bit younger.
6:30.
That old.
But it's, I don't think it's a bad idea.
No, it's another option, it's another option.
Yes.
Okay, next thing, open enrollment. We have,
Okay.
one complaint.
Really?
Well, apparently the bus drivers were not all informed about open enrollment until yesterday or today, and they were given to, they have to be at Austin today or tomorrow? Is
Okay,
that correct?
If I have bus drivers who weren't informed, maybe we don't have the phone number correct in J-call, because we sent.
Chief is on our committee, he didn't know.
Well, if he's on the committee, he should know.
He didn't have an enrollment day.
We just got him yesterday.
They just got their enrollment yesterday.
But everybody, the enrollment, the schedule.
Take this
I didn't
list,
receive anything at all.
take this list right here, cuz.
I came here this morning and got my information,
You kidding me, man?
because I was here.
Well, we sent it by email in September, we sent J-call, we sent a reminder email today. And we may have sent one middle of the term, I don't know. But I mean, it's every year, September 15th to November 15th.
But he didn't
We have a gap
he
somewhere,
had-
there's a gap, Mona.
He came,
Yeah, there's
he
some.
So when
came
was
out
this
to the
sent?
central office
Via
today because he had no notification. And he spoke with 10 bus drivers who didn't have any notification.
Well, that's a problem, because we invited them when, we had several days over here at Central, and we sent J-calls.
So when was this email sent, may I ask?
Which one?
This list of schools,
He didn't see that.
I did not see that.
Got that today, there was a list today. There was an
Today.
email today.
I saw
And then
today.
there was a.
It's been
voice
online
note.
since September.
There was
Oh,
a
yeah.
phone call.
What happens to those people who are not tech savvy? You can't assume everybody goes online to get information. I'm just saying.
No, but we do it several different ways, Carol, so that we can
But
try
you
to
said you
reach
called them?
J-Call.
So you did not receive a call?
Did not.
Okay, so what's another I'm just saying, we must have a gap somewhere. We need to just close in the gap so we can resolve the issue.
Well,
It's obvious we have a
Y'all
gap.
don't do robocalls anymore?
Yeah, that's what
And
you
you
said.
That's what we did.
That's what it is.
also it was on.
When was that sent?
What's that?
When was that J-call sent?
I'd have to go back and see. I
I'd
don't
like
have
to find it.
What's that?
I'd like to find it because
There's a way
I'm
you
up on all
can
this
plug in
stuff.
his number and see if it's.
if I didn't get it, I can't imagine how many did not get it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
It's true.
That's the.
And does
That's
it go to their,
fine.
does it go to their home phone or does it go to their
Their cell.
phone?
Depends what we send,
Okay,
depends what we send it.
But but it'll go to their cell primarily.
yeah.
Yours, Keith, yours
But
should
you
have
send
gone to
text
yourself.
also.
Absolutely.
So you've gotten J-calls on yourself, but you didn't get this
Okay.
J-call.
I did not see it. If I have it, I apologize, but I
Can you put a little notice in everybody's check envelope?
We don't
do
have,
that.
it's all direct
We don't get that
deposit. We don't print checks
Well, then,
anymore.
we gotta find a solution to close the gap. There's a gap. I'm so sorry.
What we
I
could
would
do
get
for
check.
bus drivers is tell them that
Excuse me.
remind them at the in-service, they're all there in one place. That we
That
could
would
do.
be the thing to do, yeah.
that would help.
Yeah, that's a solution.
Is there any group other than the bus drivers that weren't informed? I know you got yours today, or yesterday, right? You got your schedule?
The list of everybody, but I've been nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the phone call.
Is there anybody else?
I got my phone call from Skip.
Bus drivers and bus attendants are the only group that aren't based at a place, where we can send out to, so. I think everybody else has a home base.
But they should have all gotten either an email or a J-call, and you didn't.
Well, we had a lot of bus drivers show up for EBI, so I have to assume somebody got the calls, that some of them did.
Well, we need to find out what the problem is so we can solve it before we have another open
Just
enrollment.
close the gap.
I think putting something in their in-service packet would help. Or a direct mail just to bus drivers and bus attendants.
Well, and what's that meeting that they go to, all the custodians go to at the start of the school year? Is that the one you're referring to?
In-service.
And do attendants go as well, bus attendants? So then, yeah, that's your venue for you to have all of them there.
So what's going to happen, Keith?
Yes. I'm just
The
finding
bus
out.
drivers are at Austin today and tomorrow. Since
Well,
some of them don't know,
Yeah.
what can we do to accommodate those that don't know? Is
Well,
there
they should have their options, and this is the first time I see this.
We can do a J-call to them. They're gonna be at central office too next week.
That'd be great. I think that would help.
You can
No,
have
I may
it
be-
on Friday.
We're overreacting, but
I mean, we
I've
have
never
2
seen
weeks.
it.
They have 2 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah, they still have time.
yeah.
They still have time, but
We don't want to run out.
Keith's concern, he talked to me before the meeting, was that had he not come out here today to ask the question, he would not have known about today and tomorrow at Austin. And he could not share that with the people he's here to represent. So that's, he was understandably upset. So
Does transportation have some type of, a way to contact just their people?
They text through J-call.
So transportation could send it as well.
You said you had.
For now, I'm saying, since we have a short window left.
Yes.
Just for instance, today, just casually speaking to my Jennifer High, Jennifer Middle, Austin Elementary, I spoke to 10 drivers. They had no clue.
none of them knew.
Well, we have a problem with J-call because those entering the HR information weren't putting the number in the right
Totally understand.
spot. And so we've been correcting that.
And I told them that, I said, we need to have proper information at
Yeah.
administration.
And it has to be loaded in the right field
Correct.
in Alio. And so we just discovered about 2 weeks ago that that was an issue.
But this,
I think it needs to be clarified at in-service that you guys need proper information and proper, so that you can get the information out to them. I think a lot of that is operator error on that.
So we corrected for next year with the information, the in-service packet, but what do we do for these bus drivers for this enrollment period?
We'll send another call, and if I can get some postcards done, we can do a direct mail. It's about 300 something people, so it wouldn't be.
Yeah, but if it's what, tomorrow you said?
Oh, no. Well,
No, they have
this
to
is-
change
Or just the school?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just one area. We don't know how many other
Don't know.
people.
That I don't know.
So I would say send a postcard. Just
Try to get
basic,
disseminate information for you.
basic.
You see, I just received a text from our Bus Driver Association president. She has not received it.
You see? So we need that postcard.
So does the Bus Driver Association president have access to every driver? Or is that just?
No, only that association.
Yeah,
So I
that's
can
what
only
was-
imagine what's
Yeah,
happening
but-
with the normal driver.
What I was gonna say is if she had access to every driver, she could send a mass text to them, but if she doesn't have
He
access
does
to every
not have
driver.
access to every driver.
I think,
Transportation.
Now, you know what you could do is,
Transportation does.
if you get it out to the schools, we could hand deliver to the drivers when they come in the morning or the afternoon.
That's a solution.
So, because
That'll expedite
all of
it.
them hit a school. So if every school hand deliver, and we got people on duty at those posts. So if every school distributes, it'll be a whole lot quicker and cheaper than your court.
Will a substitute bus driver give that information to the bus driver?
Sure he would,
When he gets back
yeah.
in the bus?
Or they should have their number, don't you think, that they would call them directly and say, hey, I'm not a part of this insurance program, but you are? You would hope?
I would hope.
You would hope.
But
I
today,
think though,
I
I think
wouldn't
the
bet on
postcards go to everybody.
Yeah.
Because if
If an administrator
if
forgets.
somebody says, I didn't get one, well, then you have the wrong address or you gave me the wrong
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, we don't want to pass it to
It's
many
well,
hands
those
because
that come
then
back, it's your test.
postcard, I would say, yes.
But in this particular case, isn't it the timeliness we're talking about?
Oh, yeah.
But-
Yeah, that's just it, we're talking about, today's the 5th, talking about 10 days it closes.
That's correct.
And to have the postcards printed, and then, you know, US snail mail goes, they're no longer out of Lafayette.
No, the Baton Rouge.
So it goes to Baton Rouge or New Orleans in some
Or New Orleans,
cases.
right.
You know, honestly, truthfully, every school is gonna have duty people at those spots. I mean, you have to.
why would you do
So,
both?
you know, or you could, that's because
Administrators and the postcards.
It's a good
and then
idea.
that way everybody's hit.
yeah, everybody's.
Now keep, you check,
Everybody's
you
got
have
it. Yeah.
LPSS
Bad
email.
choice of words, huh?
Yes, it is.
Yes, I just need to check that. See, I also have my regular email through Cox Communications and in LPS, I've never checked. The only reason I go to LPSS is to do my,
But that's where we
Yeah,
send
that's where
out,
it's
when we
being sent.
email all employees,
It's
that's
sent to
where.
so we need,
LPSS
so we
online
need
guide.
to have it. We still,
You need to check your LPSS.
I need to
email.
check my J-call.
Well, I can check that
But
too.
then
So I need to know when I was
every
sent.
bus driver tech savvy, y'all just
Oh, I understand.
pretend like everybody gets email and check it. You have a bus driver who doesn't use a computer.
I agree.
So,
Get a cell phone.
That,
So J-call through a cell phone would be the other way.
Yes.
So I need to know when that J-call was done, so that I can answer questions.
We just want to make sure everybody gets the same.
Sure.
Just text me that email time, I mean, that J-call time.
I can do that.
That would be great.
So you have a solution for the next 10 days and we have a solution for next year.
Okay, thank you.
And I would suggest, Mona, I'm sure you will, but when you send it to the schools, send it principal, assistant principal, secretary. Just in case some of the larger school, you know, like the secretary can say, hey, did you get this? You know what I mean?
Now,
They're
should
instrumental
I
in some of that.
pony them paper? How do you want me to do that? Some of them won't want to make the copies.
Yeah.
Well, paper is expensive.
Yeah.
How many drivers would be at the biggest?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that?
It's not like hundreds of copies.
I know, it's true.
Okay,
Lafayette
okay,
might be the most.
The biggest,
and they
yeah.
have like 37 buses, so.
So you think that's reasonable?
I think so.
Yeah, just for this one time to catch up, because we're on a time crunch of 10 days.
Because if you put it in a brown envelope and make it put aside and
Yeah.
for later.
No, I wouldn't.
Mona, is there any other employee group that we are unaware of that this could have happened to?
Yeah.
Because we didn't know about this till today.
I'll see him.
Is there any other employee group?
Even itinerant people have base.
schools.
Can we
Um,
find out how many bus drivers has gone through this already?
Yeah.
Our cafeteria personnel might be another one. that,
They're at each school, and we had our own at the office,
okay.
so we're covered.
And I know too,
Custodians?
Yes.
and I know as well, like, the EBI group, they came back, they had missed 4 of us on the day that they came, and they came back to us, and they said, we need to make contact with these 4 people.
They had a list.
So they had a list.
Would our inventory people have an idea of how many bus drivers may have gone through this enrollment already, so we maybe are overreacting?
Well, I don't think it's an overreaction, because if you've talked to 10 people today plus 1 to 11,
You didn't know.
even if 11 people didn't, there's a pretty good chance more than 11 didn't know.
Yes.
And you know, if you want to send something that we can print, if you put it on like quarters, you know what I mean? Then even if they have the most, you know, yes, exactly, like Ms. Trostler was mentioning, 37 and you put 4 on a page and we just hand them and go, hand them and go, hand them and go. I don't think that's unrealistic.
There's only what, about 300 some odd buses? That's all there, yeah, put them on a quarter of a page and then you go with it.
Yeah,
So Mona, we're gonna do both postcards and the schools, right?
Yes.
for this time, because of the fact that it's a time crunch.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we had the meeting,
That's not a problem.
so you could let us know, Keith, I appreciate it.
Okay.
What about the central office? Everybody at the central office is being taken care of?
They're coming back to do cleanup.
Okay.
The ones they missed
Yeah.
at the end of next week.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the LFT member vacancy.
Yes, Miss Brioni Carter resigned. She ran the board, and I guess I don't know, she resigned anyway, so.
Well, as I recall, we had never had an LFT rep, and what happened last year when we were filling the committee again, I got a hold of the phone number, I think it was from HR.
Okay.
And called LFT in Baton Rouge and
Oh.
said, we need 2 of your members. And so there were 2 LFT people who agreed to do it. Briani was the one they chose to do it, but there was a second person who volunteered.
Oh,
So if you get a hold of LFT in Baton Rouge,
okay.
they can, I don't have that name.
I'll call.
They can let you know who that was. Any old business? New business, next meeting, February 4th, 5:30?
Make a
Anything?
motion, we adjourn.
I'm
waiting for him.
Date night, you gotta go.
Date night, he said. Is that what I have to look forward to when I return? Date night?
Date night, yeah.
So you don't get them now?
Okay, I'm retired, I'm in my date night.
I'm gonna see you next week. No, I'm not paying.
Yeah.
All right,
Our insurance.
I
see you.
mean, they kept them
What is, I see you one day is like.
Hey, I heard about
See you around the
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes, ma'am.